Itchy nose.
All right.
Let me tell.
Not because
Here we go, guys. I believe we are recording here. Yes, we are. It's your brunch show, the Sunday Morning Mimosa. Lawson checking with Yvonne, Bobby Shealy, and Miss Pixie Paula. And we are thrilled
Right.
you are here and joining us on the Big Brunch Show. It is, something that we've been trying to do a lot recently, and everyone's got their coffee. I like that skirt mug, by the
I
way.
do too.
Now I have skirt mugs everywhere.
Look at my mug, what it says. Can you read it? It says, I'm not arguing. I'm just explaining why I am right.
See, that's perfect. That's sensible.
That so fits you.
I'll get us Sunday morning mimosa cups. So if we're going to do it this way, this is how we should do it.
I'd love to have a skirt mug too. I love skirt.
Got plenty of those.
And y'all are still rocking and rolling with your skirt magazine. And
we are. Yeah, it's all whole. You know what? The things I was having to do to change to move into a digital world for people to be able to work remotely, and everyone thought I was crazy. Mm-hmm. No one thinks I'm so crazy anymore.
That's exactly. You're ahead of the curve, sister. Anyway.
So, a lot of stuff going on. You guys heard, I was watching CBS Sunday Morning, as I typically do every Sunday. Mm-hmm. And wow, they've got drive-throughs for everything. We knew, I always knew about the drive-through like wedding chapels. I did not know about drive-through funeral chapels.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary. But moreover, the one that caught my eye, of course, was the drive-through cocktail bars. Now, people are driving through ordering like full martinis. Oh, wow. They have to
special of the day. Yeah.
You have to what, Lawson?
Seal the top, so you can't drink and drive, clearly.
Right. That's what I was wondering.
People were ordering like dirty martinis, like extra shaken and with blue cheese stuffed olives. I'm like, what?
Well,
Lawson, I think we have a new business, right?
If we can get through the darn rules of South Carolina,
we got everything we need right here for that.
You sure do. You talk about drive-through at Striped Pig Distillery, girl. That's incredible.
Yeah, so except for the laws of the state, but we are having them. They literally are supposed to step foot on the ground. That's just the state laws. Craziness. But I think they're going to have to adjust because people are doing it anyway. They're adjusting, and the consumer just is taking care of their health. So we have a Striped Pig Distillery.square.site version that you can go on. You can order. Everything will get ready. We'll collect the money on the site. And so when you get there, you honk your horn, put your foot on the ground, you come out, we hand you your bag, pick up your hand sanitizer. Yeah.
Oh, I want to try that hand sanitizer too.
Yeah, speaking of which,
out there to some of your friends.
We'll talk after we get off the air, but I want to get my hands on some of that hand sanitizer too. We'll talk about that in a minute. But here's what is just getting me, you guys. All right, so essential businesses are that definition to me is really gray. I mean, really gray. Did you hear, like in Orlando, that the mayor, his name is Jerry Deemings, has issued that the World Wrestling Enterprise, the WWE, is an essential business. I'm sorry, how in the fuck is that possible?
It's ridiculous. I mean, I do miss sports, but yeah, I don't know. None of them are essential, right? They're essential to the players, and they're essential to the people trying to make money, but they're not essential to our, I don't know, our
life role.
Yeah,
no kidding. Well, here's what I did find out, and this is kind of exciting. I mean, and we have this neighbor who literally is around the corner from my house. So she's been quarantining. I've been quarantining, kind of similar to what you and Taylor are doing, Bobby. So we feel safe going over to each other's house for dinner. So we do it about once or twice a week. And she had a doctor who was a general practitioner from MUSC. He pulled over and was hanging out for a little while, obviously social distancing, because they're doing mostly video conferences right now. They're not doing face-to-faces. I think they do have to do face-to-faces one time a week or something like that. But he was telling me it just seems crazy that what people are perceiving as essential versus non-essential. And, we were talking about the curve and the peak and this, that, and the other. And he has said that MUSC has been in pretty great shape here in Charleston. It has not been truly overwhelmed like some other places have been. But it just is interesting to to talk to someone that, he may be a general practitioner, but he's got his ears to the grindstone and he's listening as to what people think about vaccines and how long it's going to take. But moreover, he brought up to me the necessity for sports. It's like, well, why can't people be playing golf right now? Why can't the PGA? Granted, we can't go, but it would take drones and a couple announcers that could be socially distanced. And to that point, sure enough, not 5 days later, the PGA announced that they're going to be hosting the very first return to sports and golf at the at what do they call it in Hilton Head? Not the Masters, it's the Heritage.
Heritage, yeah.
And the Heritage will be virtual, but the players will play and they will cover it on TV. And you mark my words, that is going to be the highest damn sports rated thing that has hit the air since the Super Bowl because people are desperate right now. There's nothing to watch.
Well, I would like to, so it's interesting. And I've been exploring this because I was waiting to see what would come down the channel to see if we were even going to be considered essential, but then quickly they assessed that yes, we were absolutely critical and essential, and I had to pivot to meet what the demands were. But I was still having difficulty understanding, well, why are the liquor stores even still considered essential? I know I am to make the hand sanitizer, but what about really liquor? But then when you think about it from the other perspective, and they said that people who would have withdrawals, who would end up taxing the MUSC or the hospital systems,
no kidding,
resources, right? So I looked at it the same way from the WWE. I happen to have, and this is not a commentary, I'm just saying there's two sides to every story, right? I gotta tell you though, I worked with Vince McMahon for a long time, and Local Choice Spirit sponsored the WWE for events. Mm-hmm. And from the perspective of the fact that those guys also are big contributors to nonprofit organizations based on their sales and their watching, I think about the trickle effect all the way through. Like we worked with them because they loved us because with our Gold Star vodka that we were donating back to veterans, they donate back to veterans, and they've got the Heroes Foundation and all these other charities that come out as direct recipients from these ticket sales. So think about how it trickles all the way down. It is hard to understand that it doesn't appear to be essential, not my position or judgment, but I do just think about from a trickle down effect, how many other things get affected that are critical and essential. Like if they have no money to give to the Heroes Foundation or support veterans, then what happens to veteran benefits and needs? You know what I'm saying? Like these, we don't think about all the trickle down effect.
Yeah, it's all the layers underneath it.
Yeah, all the professional sports have organizations, and nonprofits that they are part of and contribute to, and because it's a trickle down effect everywhere.
Yeah. And I'm single, so there's no man in my house, and I love sports, especially. I'm like, okay, we need women's world tennis. I could go for that. Right. But what happens in the households, right? There's no testosterone, adrenaline fix. There's nothing to do if they're not besides the Netflix thing. Like, what are households looking like? I'm curious.
There's a lot of reruns, NBA Finals 1978. I mean, there's sports to watch, but there's nothing new.
No, nothing new. No creative
but like
content.
Car racing, I think they could bring that back. I mean,
that's true. That's all by yourself.
You're by yourself, and really and truly, they can't hear the fans. So it's not going to affect them as much. I think, like with baseball and basketball and all that, it's just like being on stage in the theater.
How come someone hasn't created a new sport like hot air ballooning or something? Like we should be doing that. Like just watch. Let's just sit at the screen and watch the balloon go by for hour after hour.
I don't know, but anyway, feeding off of your audience and your, in your sports people, your people in the stands. I mean, it's a huge part of playing, but again, we're all having to adjust to our new norm. So maybe those basketball players, I don't know. It's just, it is such a trickle down effect, because I wonder if they'll play for less money since. And what I'm saying? There's not going to be people buy tickets, and
we all have to have a lifestyle adjustment for sure.
Yeah, the new normal. Thing. What is the new normal going to be?
What's your new normal, Bobby?
Well, like Tuesday, I'm showing property, and as per the MLS, I've got to wear masks, gloves, and booties, and only one person allowed in the house at one time.
How you gonna show a house when you can't?
I open the door and they go in, and I stay outside. And
and you ask them not to touch anything, right?
That's
Don't touch.
if the owners will let us in.
Wow. And you're yelling, okay, take a right. The bedroom's over there.
And I actually had a listing. An agent called me yesterday, a condo I've got out at Wild Dunes, and he had to come through me to get the information to go in it. But people are out there looking. It's kind of interesting. It's like my buyer, it just kind of shocked me. He's been renting in Charleston for a couple of years, and why right now in the middle of the pandemic, he decides he needs to go look for property. Because I don't go anywhere but to the grocery store, and when I go, it's like once a week, and I'm all but in a hazmat suit. You know, I have on a mask, I have on gloves, I have hand sanitizer in my pocket. I stay away from everybody because I don't want to get this thing.
No.
Maybe they feel like it's a buyer's market, right? If they make lowball offers because people are so frightened of what's going to happen to the values of real estate that they're like, might as well get my bid in first because they're probably going to come in with low bids.
Statistically, March closed sales higher than last year this time.
What?
Yeah, real estate figures are up. They're up.
The real estate market is supposed to, once this dies down, is going to have the busiest. It's predicted that they are going to have the busiest year they've ever had. Because number one, people have been cooped up in their houses and they're like, I hate this freaking house. I want to get out of here. I'm going to buy a new house or whatever. I mean, everything. So
what's lending going to look like though? You know, what are mortgages and
3%, 3.1 for a 30-year loan. Refinances are down in the 2s. It's really crazy, but for me, I don't want to go out and show property just for health reasons. But you know, I got to make a living.
Right.
So, but I'm being, I have everything but myself wrapped in plastic.
Perfect. So, have any of you guys seen that new Netflix show, The Outer Banks?
Oh my God!
Loved it.
I have to tell you this. 2 nights ago, I cut it on, and I've stayed up for 2 days, and I've watched the entire series, and ended up at 1 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
Glued.
Michael and I watched it in 2 days.
Every show. I'm done with the whole series.
Obviously filmed here in Charleston.
Which is great.
Yeah, and that's cool. And they, showing Lowndes Grove a lot because that's the big, house there, and which was fantastic. And the writing sucks. And I'll just be right up front with you. The acting's fine, but the writing, it just was terrible. I'm just going,
I think the plot is great.
I
think the plot is really good.
I think the writing in the first couple of episodes was a little, shaky, but I think they got into it. And, you have to remember you're listening to supposedly teenagers speak, even though all the actors are in their 20s.
Late 20s.
Aren't they good looking though?
Holy shit.
Let's get right to it,
That John Beek is hot.
That John Beek can eat crackers in bed as far as I'm concerned for as long as he lives.
No, I thought it was great. I love the story, and I'm ready for season 2.
Did they get picked back up? Did we hear?
Yeah, I think they will because so many people are,
I hope so.
They're so desperate for content anyway, right? So anything that's had some kind of rating, unless the cast all gets put in jail.
Right.
Well, you know why they shot it in Charleston. They were going to shoot it in Wilmington.
Right.
Josh and Jay Pate, who directed, produced, wrote, whatever concept of it, or they are stepsons of Dick Elliott and their Dana Elliott's children.
Okay.
The twin boys. They grew up with my husband. They grew up in North Carolina and with their dad and then in Atlanta with their mom or whatever. But they would spend summers at Seabrook, which is where my husband grew up. So when they were like 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever, they all hung out together and they spent summers together. So, and Michael was in one of their weddings and all that stuff. But one of them, and I can't remember whether it was Josh or Jay, moved to Wilmington after 25 years in LA because they've both been, out there. And they were going to shoot it all. They wanted to shoot it all in Wilmington. I read a backstory. And because of the bathroom bill, you know what that is, where in North Carolina, you have to go to the bathroom the sex you were born. Okay, there's a bill on the books, and the LA people would not. They basically refused to shoot in North Carolina. Wilmington's had a lot of trouble with that. There were a couple of other shows that they wouldn't shoot there because of the bathroom bill. Anyway, they ended up coming down here and shooting it in Charleston, but it was all supposed to be shot in Wilmington. But they had a date. Netflix had a date that it needed to be done by, so they came down here and shot it, which I thought was
I love watching the local scenery and the things that you pick up on.
That's what's fun.
Really
makes you feel good. See old, and then Morris Island Lighthouse.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's cool. I love that. Anyway, I thought it was good. We enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed it.
I finished it. No, like I say, I finished it with the sad excuse that I wanted to see John B. on a date at Hull's Chop House with me one night.
Oh well, yeah.
I love it.
That would be a nice thing to happen.
I'll have my people reach out to his people and see if we can do it.
Lawson, maybe we can do sets on that.
Oh,
They don't have a whole lot of pretty stuff in it. Ooh, yeah.
Let's do it at the Distillery Event Center and craft a whole stage.
we can do that too. Listen, if we can get in touch with them, and obviously I feel like we're less than a couple degrees of separation from.
We're one. We're zero. Yeah.
Right. I think they probably would. We'll talk about that when we get off the air. And finally, did y'all see the One World Together concert last night on ABC, CBS, NBC?
No.
Oh, wow. It was great. They
Warms my heart. Yeah.
They ended with Celine Dion, Lady Gaga, and Andrea Bocelli and John Legend singing The Prayer, all four together. It was incredible.
Oh my gosh, that's my favorite song. Oh my gosh.
That and the Rolling Stones from 4 different places.
Yeah, just like this.
Right, sang Can't Get What You Want. Like, it was the coolest thing ever. It was really neat. You can get it on YouTube for sure. But let's get with Bobby for a minute while we got a few minutes here. Bobby, what you cooking in your kitchen these days? Bobby, I saw some old school Charleston squash and rice and gravy and stuff recently.
Yeah, man. I stuffed that down last night. Just I love stewed squash, and I had stewed squash and rice and gravy, and I had done a turkey breast and a meatloaf in the smoker a couple days ago. And I had some mushrooms, and so I added that to the gravy and made, kind of a nice baby Bella mushroom gravy. And
You're making
my friend Taylor had brought over his great-grandmother's recipe for lemon pie.
Yum.
And so we just had like a food fest last night and just, cruised around the neighborhood with cocktails on the golf cart, and then went into round 1 with the food, and then went into round 2 with the food, and then went into round 3 with the food, and then we went and got dessert.
What did you drink to go with your food? Wine? Liquor?
We had a really nice white wine to start off with, and finished off with a red wine.
Mm-hmm.
It was good, and just been, trying to look in the freezer. If anybody thinks they're going to run out of food, just call me, because I probably have enough in I have 2 freezers and a 14-foot pantry. I've got enough food for about 3 months on the regular.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've got to cook a leg of lamb today because I took it and I'm like, all right, it's been sitting in the fridge for a week. I was going to cook it for Easter, and then it didn't happen. I made a ham. I bought a ham. Okay, I'm alone. I bought a ham, a turkey, and a leg of lamb for Easter. I came home and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? I ended up putting the turkey in the freezer, the lamb I'm going to cook today, and I cooked the ham with green bean casserole, and I ate it all week. And I made a chicken soup with ham and the ham bone, thinking, it sounded disgusting. It was so good. It was so good.
No.
Who knew that the ham and the chicken could go together in a soup? So good.
Oh yeah. How you going to cook the lamb?
I'm going to slow roast it, put rosemary all over it, and just, some garlic, and maybe I'll use one of my spirits or another. I'll probably brush rub it with the espresso vodka, and then I'll an au jus with a little black cherry bourbon on the bottom, and then just put that in the oven and slow roast it. Then do my demi glaze with a little bit of vermouth and one of my whiskeys. I mean, I always cook with my spirits, so.
Love it. Well, talking about spirits, you've made a pivot and you are doing hand sanitizer now. So tell us a little bit about what's going on with that.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Like after the end of January, the beginning of February, we were doing before this whole thing broke out, we were doing a rum batch. And the guys were bucketing out the heads and tails, and they were starting to pour it down the floor drain. And I was like, what are we throwing that away for? And they're like, we don't need, this is the heads and tails. And I go, no, why are we not washing the floors with it? Pour it in the toilet, clean the toilets. This is high proof alcohol. That's a sanitizer. I said, as a matter of fact, we should be collecting all our heads and tails and using it now for wiping down surfaces. Why don't we make hand sanitizer? This is like a foreshadowing, right? And they all laughed at me and said, you can't do that. You can't, that's ridiculous. Nobody's going to buy hand sanitizer made out of our high proof rum. Complete foreshadowing.
Wow.
Within 2 weeks, I mean, I'm literally having that flash. 2 weeks later, the team is going, we need to make hand sanitizer. We need to make hand sanitizer. And I said, okay, we need to bump up the high proof alcohol in order to make that happen. So we quickly applied for our FDA license. And I said, we're a tourist community. There's so many tour buses that come into the distillery. Of course we should have hand sanitizer. This is the end result of our little spray hand sanitizer. But anyway, so we start making it and we start getting the ingredients, and then full-fledged everything happens. So then I pivoted into making a beer bourbon, and I said breweries were getting closed down. I said, don't throw away your old beer. Bring it over to the distillery because beers will finish at 5 to 6%, I said, bring it over to the distillery. We'll throw it back in the stills. We'll get it up to 180, and we can make hand sanitizer because all these pubs were throwing away their beer. So, so some of the breweries started bringing over their beers in drums, and we dumped it in the stills, and we made beer bourbon for MUSC. Then I made another batch for Low Country Food Bank. And then finally, our products started coming in, the extra ingredients like the glycerin, the hydrogen peroxide, those things were on such back order because everybody was, the big boys were making it. We had some of the major lab companies come to us. DHEC came, FEMA came, the state came. I had other states calling us saying, hey, we're state-based, but we've got your state calling us and we're telling them about you. So it just went around in circles. So now now we're caught up to speed. So we're making it in little mini jugs. So you don't want to drink it, but honestly, we don't have any containers. The containers are on back order anywhere.
Right.
So we had to use our glass containers to make the alcohol. Mm-hmm. So that's like one version. Here's another, just, the Stripe Pig. So these are high proof alcohol sanitizer. You can't drink them, they're denatured. And then we have the little, this would typically be the shot bottle, right? The 50 mils, the minis that you buy. But we ordered spray tops for them because we were able to get the spray tops. We couldn't get containers because they're all on back order.
Right.
So that's what we have now. So we have spray containers with the hand sanitizer. You could buy your big one, you could buy the little one, and then you could refill.
That's what I was wondering.
And it's simple as, you spray. It's not open yet. Oh yeah, spray. That's it,
I love that.
Great idea.
Brilliant.
All kind of fun things.
It smells so good.
Well, y'all hang out.
It smells like banana rum.
Hang out on the line here, but we thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll be with you every week. We've got a way to figure out our music. That's coming back as well.
Excellent.
The whole show is coming back, and we'll be back with you next week. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in, and thank you guys for being here. Again, hang on the line. We'll talk as soon as we get off the air here. But you guys have a great Sunday. Thanks.